All right, this is where we left off last time, where we have our little sphere scene going on. It goes through, but let's say that we forgot to add our rigid body. We made a bunch of bricks. We're modeling a scene, and we forgot to add the rigid body inside of our scene. Right, so I'm gonna go to physics here. I'm gonna right click, or left, or just click in here. See, can I get rid of this? Come on. Does it have to be only on one object? Let's go ahead and just create a new brick. All right, so I'm going to, at the bottom here, hit Shift A, and then do Mesh, and then Cube, and then I'm going to hit G. This time we're going to go nuts on or go crazy with the number of bricks. I'm going to hit S, and then let's do Y, scale that down, and then S, Z for the top view, and then G, and then Z. Let me hit my period to zoom in on this. Just gonna move that down just a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit Shift D, G, and then X, move that over, Shift R to just duplicate that a bunch. And that's what I'm saying here. Like, let's say we forgot completely that, let's go ahead and grab our selection tool. This is actually W is the hotkey. And I'm gonna hold Control to get rid of that. And I'm gonna hit Shift D, G, and then Z for up. And then I'm gonna hit Shift R a bunch. Okay, so now we got even bigger, crazier wall. I'm gonna scale up this sphere as well. And then I'm gonna bring this thing down, G and then Z. Hit S to scale that up a little bit. Actually, let's do G and Z up here. And then let's do G and Y, bring this back. G and Z, G and Y. All right, so as you can see here, if I go to physics, I don't have a rigid body. So how do we add it to a bunch of these at the same time? And actually, let's go ahead and just rotate this light here, R and X, a little bit this way. Okay. All right, so the trick is I can select all of these, again, holding Control and clicking off, and we could see that these are the only ones highlighted. And the trick is you can go to Object here, and then you can go to Physics. Let's see, Rigid Body here, and then hit Add Active. And now when we hit Spacebar, you can see it added all of that physics onto all of those bricks. So it's kind of a nice way of, kind of being able to do it all at once if you forgot what your physics, you forgot to add physics later. And actually, that looks really cool. I mean, if you wanted to, you could like select like this whole row here, like every other row. Hit G, X, and just shift them over a little bit, and they'll look more like bricks. Another thing you can do so that you don't select anything but the bricks is we could have named this one brick in here. Like all of these as bricks, and then we would have known which ones were which. But there's let's see. We could click on this and we could say, you could see there's this, we could hit turn on selectable, and now that appears here. And I could say, I don't want my sphere. Say I'm done editing this. Like, I don't want my sun selectable. I don't want this tone light selectable. And where's my sphere in here? Is it in a different collection? Oh yeah, they're in a different collection. Oh, that's crazy. I added them to this collection up here. Anyway, turn these off too. So now I'll only be able to highlight those bricks. So like these, GX. And now when we press play, You can see they look more like bricks. Looks super cool. Something else you could do too is you could say, you know what? Say I don't want these bricks over here. You can go to Object, Rigid Body, and you can click on Remove. And now, strange. You might have to rerun that simulation. You know why? Because I added Remove before the first frame. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab those. Go to Object, Rigid Body, and then hit Remove. And now when I hit Spacebar, you can see it removed. Actually, I think I had the base selected here, which is not good. So I'll go to Add, Rigid Body, or Object here, Rigid Body, Add Passive. And now when I hit Spacebar, you can see those fall. These don't move at all because they don't have a rigid body on them. And I can Control Z a bunch. And I think that should all be back. Yep, it's all added back. All right, so let's see how you can turn on and off gravity in your scene. So right here, you have this icon here and it says scene. And you can expand this and I can actually turn off gravity. So now when I press play, you can see it turned off all of my physics systems for my gravity. If I turn it back on, you can see I can hit spacebar and it works again. Something else we could do is adjust this. The more the negative the gravity is, the more that it pulls towards the Earth. So let's say we make that a -30 here, and I hit spacebar. You can see that really fell hard, and you can see they're really going nuts. I can also go the opposite direction. Say I make this +30, and I hit spacebar. You can see it's floating into space. So it's kind of got the exact opposite feel. So let's say we do -10 here. And I kind of like that -30, but it's got a good feeling of weight there for gravity. If you want to reset this back, you can just right click inside of any of these things here. You could reset all to default values, and you can see now it's back to -9.8. All right, so what I'm going to do is in this collection up here, I'm just going to turn off my sphere and my ramp. So when I hit spacebar now, I just have the bricks. And what I want to do is show you about forces. So you can see I can add a force field here. So if we add this first one, which is force, and let's see. I might put these in a collection too. Like this is like a brick collection. So new collection. Yeah. Name that brick collection. I can collapse that down. All right, so here's our force. And the way you can adjust the force is you can go into physics here. All right, I'm going to hit G and then Z to move this up a little bit. And here's my force. Now, if I press spacebar here, you're going to see that it's not doing anything because it's not really applying any force. That's the strength of my force. Say I make this 100 and I go back to 0 and I hit spacebar. You can see it's pushing out from that force field. See that? So let's move it maybe here. Let's see, G and then Y. We'll move that this way. And I hit space. You can see it's pushing it that way. So these force fields are cool if you're trying to do any kind of, just if we make this 1,000, we can have it like really blow out an area. See that? So like, like how they have it in the movies where the wall is exploding. What might be cool too is if you're looking to do maybe a effect like the way they do it with Doctor Strange is you can do something like this. Let's do G, and I'm just gonna move it. Actually, we'll move it up here, and we'll make this instead of the strength 1, we'll make it strength minus 500. I don't really know depending on the scale, but if I hit spacebar here, you could see they're getting sucked into the force field here. And then eventually it captures, it follows the shape of the force field. See that? It's kind of cool. If you wanted to go faster, you can maybe do minus 1000. To really like, like you could have like magic in your films or your what have you, you know? Now, if you want it to not affect the like location, but you just want them to rotate, you can do that. See how they're not moving, but they're trying to rotate in this direction. See that? And the reason why they blew up like that is just because they're colliding with each other. So let's say we turn off location or rotation, we just do location. At first, they just rotate a little bit again because they're colliding with each other. But overall, that's if you don't want the rotation to be affected. Let's see what else we got. We have, you could actually play with the fall off here. So let's say we turn on min and max distance here. Well, we'll leave min at 0, but max. Like let's say we make this, kind of scroll this up. You'll see, here, let me move this. You'll see that this affects a maximum distance. And so I can actually hit G, move this in the center here. And what it'll affect is only those bricks in that area. So say you're making like a film or a game or something, whatever you're doing for your cinematic, you could see I can only affect that center part there. See that? So it's kind of, if they didn't collide with each other. So let me move that down a little bit more like that. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. And then our strength here will actually go, yeah, that's fine. Let's see what this does. So it just kind of tries to blow out just that middle part. If you had more bricks, it would hold the shape a little bit more. We could also adjust this. We could do like a cone shape. You can see, and so if we hit spacebar there, oops. Sorry, we need to change this stuff on frame 0 or it kind of has a heart attack. So let's change this back to cone, see if that works. And then hit space. See how it kind of exploded like a cone. And tube. If we hit spacebar, you'll see it's going to try to follow the shape of that tube shape. See how that kind of got pulled in. If we do, again, down to 100, you can see how that looks. See how it just kind of pushes it away? All right, let's take a look at another force in this video. So with force selected here, I'm going to go ahead and hit X, and I'm just going to delete that. And then let's go ahead and hit Shift A. Let's go to force field. Let's go ahead and hit wind here. So, all right, so let's do the rotation 90 degrees here. Let's move this up, and you can see it gives you the arrow for the direction. If I hit spacebar now, it's not going to do anything. But if we play with the value, let's say we want 50. You can see it's pulling the whole wall down, and it's showing you how far with those rings. And again, if you want it to only affect like that center area, you can adjust the max distance here. You can see it's gonna up. Maybe 200 for strength. Maybe that max distance is too small. Oh, you know what? I think this should be, no, that is the right way. We'll just do minus 200 so that it's, I guess, blowing outward. I keep forgetting that gravity is the opposite. Yeah, so it's pulling it this way. We wanted it to go that way, like. So keeps it kind of small, but it's cool. It looks like, you you could do like a sonic wave effect or something. You know, if we'll get into creating particles and stuff to complement this. What's also cool is you can experiment with these different forces. For example, like we did wind, we did a force field. Let's say we want to do a turbulence. Turbulence is kind of like imagine an earthquake going on. So if I hit space here, you can see it's adding a little bit of turbulence. Let me turn this off too so that there's no min. So you can see the whole thing has turbulence. Actually, I think this should be set back to 0. And then I uncheck it and it shouldn't. And then let's make this positive 1000. And then, yeah, see how that looks like a big gravity effect? Like it's kind of like there was an earthquake and it's like shook these pieces up, you know? And this is also based on scale too. There's like noise amount, which is kind of cool. Actually, we could take our turbulence down to 0. And let's see what that does. If it just kind of gives it a little shake. All right, it looks like my force fields were like doubling up. All right, so let's go ahead and delete this from our scene. And what we'll do is I'm going to hit Shift A, and let's go to force field, and let's just add a force here. And what we're going to do is make like an explosion. All right, let's say in the beginning of your scene, about 30 frames in, which is 1 second, nothing happens, right? So what I'm going to do for strength here is I'm going to set this to 0. And then I'm going to set a key here. And you'll see that it's set a keyframe here on this thing. If you don't see it, you have to expand summary. You might even have to like pull this out a little bit, like by hitting this arrow here and then expanding summary if you don't see these keyframes. So really, between frame 0 and 30, nothing is happening. And then what I'm going to do after that is out here is I'm going to, we can go ahead and just set another key here so that we kind of hold that for a little bit of time. And then outside of here, we'll set up the explosion. So then let's say around, let's select our force field here. Around 60, we go to like a strength of 1000. So let's go ahead and key that. And that might be too big of a jump. And then we'll just adjust the distance a little bit like this. So it's like a small explosion on the inside. Let's see how that looks. We can also select these and just kind of move them over. So say we want it to be a little bit, it happens a little sooner. I think this should be higher, maybe 5,000? I'm going to move this up and I'm going to move these keys even closer here. And I'm going to make this like 10,000. I don't know if that's 100,000. So I'm going to key that again. That should be like a bigger explosion. There we go. Boom. And I'll bring this down a little bit too. Yeah, I think that's probably that's the gist of it. Like we can move it a little bit out here if we want to too, so that it explodes out to the other direction. Oh, we have to kind of move it so that it's inside of this area here. There we go. Boom. because it has to intersect with it at least a little bit. Then we can kind of scrub through there. All right, so your challenge for your assignment is essentially pick an angle, maybe make this look pretty cool, right? So let's see if we can select our tone light here, or actually our sunlight. Let's hit R to rotate. There we go. Give it a nice angle to render. And then I want you to go to render. Oh, we want to make sure that we set this back to our folder here. So this is going to be assignment 2. Wall explosion. Go ahead and hit accept. So we have it there. How many frames is this? Let's see, we want it for, I don't know, we'll do another 150 frames again. And then Control F12. Oh, hold on a second. Let's go rendering. We want to make sure that we're also inside the camera, and we lock it, and then we go this way. And then what we want to do also is we want to make sure that we go to our collections here, and our sphere, we want to make sure that's not rendered and our ramp is not renderable. Now we can hit Control F12 and it'll render out this shot here from 0 to 150 frames. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and then we'll watch the video when it's done rendering. So let's take a look. 02 wall explosion. Boom, nice explosion there. All right, let's get that up on your website.